So, a question we often get is, okay, we've made all of these changes, things are going as well as they can, given that like shelter work is hard, right? When we work where someone else lives, that is always going to have its unique challenges, right? But now we are kind of known as the program where people can go and use drugs. And so, what are some kind of thoughts you might share with programs who have this question?
Yes, this is a hard one that I still get from my staff. But my question to them is always, what's the harm? We have a mandate, and most of us as nonprofits have to operate on a self disclosed basis. We can't require survivors to have proof that what happened to them happened. So if you have someone presenting that meets your criteria for admission, it isn't your job to decide whether their best friend Susie Q checked in 2 days ago and found a great spot to be able to be high. Like it's just not your job. So you may have to just get over it. The other piece of that is when, we all see like clusters where we'll get like a cluster of heavy users in the shelter. And I think like how awesome is it that they are surrounded by individuals who understand that really unique and complex situation that they are in and that they're participating in, that like how lucky are we that we get to work with them, because the experience they have with us could inform their sobriety later on. It can inform them that we're a safe place to go when they've decided to get sober, or if they are at their bottom of the bottom and they have nowhere else to turn to. I'm glad that they have something to hold on to that is better than death or harming themselves. And, if people are in a shelter and they're homeless, sometimes we can get wrapped up in like people have options. So they're choosing to stay homeless, they're choosing to yada, yada, yada. I'm sorry, you can ask any of your staff, and I know I've asked mine. Would any of you willingly live in a shelter just to like not have to pay your rent, to like take a little bit of burden off? And I've never had a staff member say, yeah, I'd be willing to live here. Not because we're not wonderful people who do great things, but because it's not great. Shelters are proven that they are one of the worst places you can go if you're in a bad space, because you're just with a bunch of other people dealing with bad stuff. It's not very healthy. And so if they are there and they're reaching out and they need a place to go, they may not tell you why, and you may not understand all of the reasons why, and it may not be the reason that you think is worth helping, but it isn't up to you. It has absolutely nothing to do with whether you go home at the end of the day and climb in your bed and watch your Grey's Anatomy. You're going to do that regardless if that person's in the shelter or not. Now, if you have an individual who is staying in your shelter and you have these really heavy substance use concerns, and they're sleeping all day and they look like they have absolutely no plans on ever leaving, that's when you have other things in place at your shelter to address those things. That you have caseworkers, you have service plans, you have length of stay policies, because shelters are not permanent and we have lots of people that need them. So we have to have something that our clients are well aware of. We should never drop an exit date on them. It should be something that we're working towards from day one, whether that's housing, whether that's relocation, whether they want to shelter hop for the next 5 years. Great. Where are you going next? Let's help. If that's your plan, that's up to you and not me. But you have to have those other policies in place to inform that. So if you have someone who's a heavy heroin user, is not leaving, sleeping all day long, taking up a bed, and they're meeting their stay limit, that gives you the ability to be able to address that, to say, hey, we're fastly approaching the stay limit. You haven't really wanted to participate in telling me if there's anything that we can help you with as a program, or if there's any like goals or things you'd like to accomplish while you're staying here. But this is our exit date, and I just have to let you know that that's our limit. And so if we want to keep going down the road we're going, that's up to you. But once we reach here, we can't go backwards. And as long as you set that expectation, they're either going to do one of two things. They're going to pack their stuff and be gone on or before their exit date, or, and move on to the next thing, or they're going to get up and say, yeah, I guess I should put some work in and figure out what I want to do with myself. And this is the importance of not blacklisting, is because that same client may come back 3 or 4 times and have that same experience. And on the 6th time, all of the sudden is a different person. We just don't know what that journey looks like for them. You can decide as a program, if you have like someone with a really serious safety concern and you don't have room and no one else has room, it's up to you as a program if you feel like adjusting your bed space situation and asking other individuals to relocate because it doesn't seem like they need that bed. That's up to you. We used to do stuff like that, but it's really hard to play God, I think. And so finding, overflow types of options, hotel vouchering, temporary beds, those types of things are kind of the road that we took. But if you come up with a policy as an agency and you inform your clients, that's the policy, that if we have individuals that have a severe safety concern, that if that safety concern hasn't been communicated to the staff, then you may be asked to relocate, and making sure you do that in a safe way, that they have somewhere else to go. They're not just given their bag and shoved off onto the street. So that's what I would recommend. There isn't like a perfect option for that. You're always going to have individuals that way, but it's better that they're in your bed with your staff than somewhere else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so for programs that are currently using drug testing, currently breathalyzing, currently have a huge handbook of rules, right?
Yeah.
And they're looking for kind of, what do I have to look forward to? I'm going to undertake this huge change. And, what's on the other side of that change?
It does. This seems like it's impossible, but the other side of that change is the least amount of issues and telling people no you've ever had while you've run a program. It's incredible. It's amazing. I have less emergency calls to the shelter. I have less trying to find other housing for these individuals. I have less really terrible evictions, less calls to DCFS. And I can't tell you how all of those things come together, because sometimes I'm like, I don't know why, but they all seem to be correlating. The less we became rules-based and the more we became empowering-based and safety oriented, the more that stuff just kind of happened less and less. And you got to focus on the programs you got into this work to be doing in the first place. And I think that's kind of what we all want to do, is we want to help people. In all of your interviews, every single one of you said, I want to do this job because I love helping people. And that's so great. You're not helping people right now. It's a very awful, taxing way to do your job. And I know you feel that. That's why you're looking at doing this type of overhaul. And so, like, give yourself the space. If it doesn't work, call me. I will eat my words. That's not going to happen. I'm always right. Like, I ask myself, it's not going to happen. But if it happens, call me. Let's talk through it. And worst comes to worst, you have to re-implement some kind of rule structure and go back to the way you were doing things. That's it. Make sure your staff has the training. Don't change anything without making sure there is training that accompanies that change, because they're the ones on the ground and they need to know what's expected of them and how to handle those situations. Most of the time, your staff are going to be really, really relieved to not have to constantly suspect and treat people like criminals, because they didn't go to the police academy to sniff out drugs. Like, that's not what they got into this work to do. So chances are they're going to be a little worried for their safety at first, because anytime you're like, someone who uses drugs may stay here, they're going to be like, the person's going to kill me. Like, I'm going to die. And you kind of have to just like, let that happen, because that's not the real thing. But then they will get over that and understand they have support and they have management that's invested in making sure they are safe and they are secure, and understand what those safety protocols are. There's lots of programs that have safety protocols around substance use. And the thing to remember about substance use is they don't inject other people. They inject themselves. They're not sharing that. In very rare circumstances is that happening. So You're probably safe. You're not going to accidentally inhale cocaine. I promise. Promise that's not going to happen. It's never happened to me. You will get also clients who you can call to ask them about their experience staying at your shelter and talk to them about how you are contemplating these types of changes and ask them how that would have changed their stay. If you want some data or hold a focus group about individuals who have maybe stayed at your shelter on multiple occasions or who stayed at your shelter and are now successfully housed, ask them to participate in a Q&A about the things that were hardest about living at the shelter, the things that were easy, the things that were annoying, and get some feedback from them about what that looks like. I will say we did make a change during COVID. We used to house up to 4 singles in a bedroom, which is something I would never recommend to anybody. But we did that because we didn't have enough space. We've gone down to 2 singles per room and 1 family per room. We're still able to successfully shelter and house the same, if not more people, because we have a safer environment and we're having better outcomes. People are getting less pulled into the drama of their 4-person college dorm with like exponential other issues on top of it. And they're able to kind of create healthier connections and focus on themselves and what they want to do. So they get stuck less in the loop of returning to shelter. Make sure you have space for your clients to do that. That really helped keep a damper on some of the other concerns. It's easier to swap 1 roommate than it is to swap 3. And any shelter will know exactly what I'm talking about when I say that. Yeah, I could talk about this for days. So call me. I'd love to talk with you about it.
Yes. And thank you so much for making yourself available. I think you'll probably be getting many calls.
Yes.
As people make these changes and kind of come across different situations.